Which one are you trying to do?
And we are live for show number 105. That's 105. My name is Todd. That's T.Y., aka the Flip Man. I got to say T.Y. because people think I'm saying Todd, T-O-D-D, but here it is. It's Ty, T-Y.
Somebody also spelled it like Thailand, T-H-I.
That's cool. It still ain't Todd.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess so.
So we're again here for show 105. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Flipman IG. That's Flipman IG. Also on Twitter, the Flipman, TheFlipman. And subscribe here if you're on YouTube. And also like or share or follow on Facebook. Also, over to you, Adrian.
All right.
Welcome to Flipman.net.
Wow, stop. Tell it to be quiet. Okay. As you said, this is show number 105. It's June 27th, and we're a little after the 6 o'clock hour Central PM time. Welcome, welcome. You still have time to join a friend. This is where you can ask your questions, and we will answer your questions in regards to wholesaling real estate with little to no cash. If you see on your screen there, we do have Miss Renegotiate from the A here with us today. She always graces us with her presence, and we greatly appreciate that. She has her company gives you guys the opportunity to take your wholesaling, your buying, flipping, holding, whatever it is you choose to do with your real estate portfolio to the next level. I always like letting her take a moment in the beginning to explain to you what it is her business does, how to get in contact with her, and we'll recap that at the end. And always remember, you can review this video on YouTube once we're done, and you can continue to ask questions. So without further ado, we know who this guy is. You know who the voice that you hear is Radio Love. Okay, yeah. Renegotiate, tell them who you are.
Thank you so much. As always, I'm honored to be a part of the Flippinar on every Thursday. I am Renegotiate Williams, the founder of RFK Financials, and what we try to do is help you get access to money and capital and funding to help invest into your real estate business. If it's wholesaling, if it's fixing flipping, is it buying whole, you will need capital eventually to take that to the next level. And we help you leverage your credit to be able to take advantage of multiple funding sources. But the most important one is our gap funding program, where if you leverage your credit, if you have a 680 or higher, we're able to get you up to $150,000 of unsecured credit to help offset some of those expenses on taking your business to the next level. If you want to take advantage of leveraging your credit and seeing our funding options, go to fundmynextdeal.com to get started. And you also have my social media handles if you all want to connect via social media.
All right, guys, there you have it. I always like to take a moment as well to give a shout out to you guys who take time out of your busy schedule every week to join us live or listen to us on your commute home. So we have Angie from the ATL. We also have Miss Doreen Prayboy, Entree Guru, Darian Gibbs, Stacy Davis, Tony Cannon, Darius Houston, JB, Y145, Ryan the Ripper, Bev Madison, Stacy Davis, Darius Harrison, 50 Twin, Carlton Darville, and NJ Flips. That's just as of right now. I'm sure plenty will join us later. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get in the questions. Tony Cannon on YouTube wants to know how to deal with sellers who are familiar with wholesaling and refuse to accept an assignment clause on a contract.
You don't have a motivated seller. There's nothing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to talk about.
Boom. And how did that come? How did he get to that conclusion? Because an assignment clause is very minimum in a purchase and sales agreement. So how did he get to the conclusion that you was going to wholesale it?
All right, there you have it. I know weekly we have that conversation, but I think it always boils down to one of two things: is the numbers either don't make sense or either you do not have a motivated seller. That's can sum it up. And I did not call out Miss Veronica Brodneck's very faithful viewer who's joining us on Facebook. And I see you, Kiwana Eaton, who's from Alabama. Let's see here. Sticking with the questions, Darius Houston, I know we're just starting, but what do I do once I have the property under contract? I'm having a hard time finding cash buyers, even though I was confirmed the price was good?
That's a good question. What do you do after you get the house under contract? There's only one thing to do when you get the house under contract is find you an end buyer. If you don't have an end buyer, you don't have a deal. If you get past or up to the deadline of your due diligence, you want to call that seller up and say, hey, looks like it's going to be more repairs. I need if you don't mind, if I can extend that due diligence period so I can get a little bit more insight on the repairs and see if you can extend that due diligence period. If he do not allow you to extend that due diligence period, then you really just want to back out of the deal and just keep it moving. But never put that deal to the back burner. You may come past that buyer 2 weeks from now. And then, so you always want to, keep that relationship open. So just in case you're able to go back 2 weeks from now and say, hey, is that property still available? And put it back on the contract with the new buyer that you have.
Okay, there you have it. Let's see here. Y145 wants to know, do you have tips to renegotiate the price after it's under contract?
Absolutely. That happens all the time. I mean, I'm actually going through that right now, where someone wanted a higher number for the purchase price, and I accepted that number. And then once I got an appraised on it, because I'm really getting a lender to flip it, and I got it appraised, and it appraised for $100,000 less as is than the number that I had. So I had to go back and renegotiate. Hey, I really don't want to pay more than what the property is really worth. So that was that tactic. But for you on negotiating, you can always negotiate with repairs and real detailed repairs. Well, this got to happen. The roof is caved in. I need to replace this and this. So you want to pinpoint a lot of major repairs that needs to be done, and the reason why to justify your reason to wanting to decrease that price.
Okay. Woo, child, we going through them. Nikki is on fire, answering them right off the bat. Okay, let's keep going. Stacy Davis, who's located in Lynchburg, Virginia. A lot of old president money here. Got my first subject to deal on the table. Okay. I like old president money and new president money. Okay, Great Gatsby. Ms. Doreen Brayboy, who's the voice behind the scene. We never see your face. No, I'm just.
You got to get back in front of the scene, Adrian.
Okay, yeah. Ty told me I had to stay off in the background.
No,
you saw that face I just got. It was like, no.
What did she say? Scratch.
What did I say? Huh?
Scratch the what did Ray Charles' mama say? Scratch a lot, find a devil or something.
Oh,
crazy.
I heard of that saying, and I love saying.
Okay, Adrian Davis, how do you do a title search on a property before you present the property to a cash buyer?
Just pay.
Yeah. What do you say?
I say you just pay for it. You contact the title company, just pay for it. I don't suggest doing that. You'll spend a lot of money that you may not get back. Wait till you get a buyer.
Why would you want to do that?
Okay, so consensus is we don't suggest trying to run titles before you have a deal, which is a seller and buyer both in place, correct?
Right. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see here. Ron Legend. I want to say Ron LeGrand every time I see his name, but it says Ron Legend. How do I find the comps on land or a commercial building if nothing has been bought or sold in those areas?
That's a really good question. So on land, I mean, it's kind of hard to find comps on land. So usually what I would do, and so I could probably add some more value to it, I usually just would go to the property records and see what the tax assessors appraise the land or value the land for land value. So if you go to the property records, on each property records, you will see a value for the land and the value for the dwelling as well, and or a tax assessor value. And I would usually just take that for land, but it's kind of hard to appraise it. So only other thing to do would probably just get it appraised. For commercial, it's very tricky on commercial because it is harder to find the value for commercial. So one of the ways it's finding the value for commercial is taking the cap rate approach and figuring out the cap rate to figure out the value of the property, and that's Googleable on how to calculate the cap rate so you can figure out the value for commercial properties. There's also a approach where you kind of back into it by figuring out exactly the cost of what it would take in order to get that commercial property to a place where it's usable or is occupied. So it's two different approaches for commercial evaluations. And Todd could probably add to that too.
Yeah, especially with commercial. Well, I guess some of too, houses too, but a lot of it depends on the end game. Now, one of the difficulties of trying to come up with a value with land is just it's so much speculation goes into it, right? So you really, unless you're just really seasoned in that, and that's just, cats out there, they can look at a piece of land and they can do studies on the market, and they'll know exactly what goes there. But that's just on a whole nother level that I'm not even familiar with by no means. So a lot of it's so much speculation. Now, obviously, if there's a lot of retail in a particular area and there's a piece of land, those are easier to identify as an opportunity, but it still doesn't help you with an actual value of what it would be able to sell for, what would be a great deal. You're going to have to, the first thing you're going to revert to what the county appraises the land for. And that's not always right in the sense of what someone's willing to pay for it or whatever. That's really the only thing you can go by, and you try to get that pennies on the dollar and go from there. That's the only thing I can really suggest. Just try to get it based on what the county is appraising it for and try to get it maybe 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, if not less. So.
All right. Our next question is going to be, when estimating repairs nowadays, houses sell with appliances in them. Do you add a fridge, stove, washer, and dryer, etc., to that repair list if the property doesn't have them? So I think maybe when we're talking about the ARV, we shouldn't, or would you include appliances in that amount?
No, not to get the ARV.
Okay.
No, not to get the ARV. I mean, you add the appliance to your scope of work, which it can be an expense. If you're looking to fix and flip a property, that could be one of the expenses on your scope of work that you want to add in a full appliance package. But the appliances is not necessarily calculated to get the ARV. What's calculated, things that's calculated to get their ARV is square footage, bedrooms, the different designs that the property provides and things of that nature, but not necessarily the appliances, because those are fixtures that can be taken out of the property. So what's really used is only fixtures that are fixed to the property that comes into the value of the property. Is only things that are fixed to the property. Anything that can be taken out of the property is not necessarily value to the property. If that's
okay. And I tied in that ARV, but that it also applies to when you're calculating repairs. A home lacking a refrigerator is not the same as a home lacking a roof. Like, you wouldn't consider that. It has nothing to do with the actual structure of the property, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's a non-fiction.
So appliances it doesn't add any value to the property or anything. It just makes it more appealing. And then, just because you got appliances, that doesn't mean they want those appliances.
Right.
So, that's going to be a judgment call on it. A lot of people will stage properties. This is on the flip side of it, so it's really not your concern as a wholesaler. You're on the flip side of it, then it's just a whole nother ball game. Like she said, it's just an expense at that point. But as far as you trying to figure it out on the wholesale side of it, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, my city only has 100,000 people. Is that market big enough for constant wholesale deals? But the whole county has around 250,000. So obviously the biggest city in the county. But is that an area that you would want to do wholesale deals? Or
you can make a living in that market.
Okay, so that would be yes.
So I would probably do the whole county, but yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. And you can pull a list if you have a realtor. You can pull a list on how many properties sold this month, this year, this quarter, and you can kind of determine which areas is probably selling the most in your area. So you're putting your money in the zip code that people are really buying into and things of that nature. So you just really want to somewhat calculate the demand for the houses. And if there's demand for the houses, there's, the supply is needed.
Okay. And I was saying that question was for Darius. Thanks, Darius, for putting that there. Jabor Carter, pretty lengthy, but I'll read it all. I'm good at talking to people in person, but I just want to know what would be a good introduction when cold calling so that I don't get hung up on. Also, if I go out of state, can I wholesale in another state? For example, I live in Texas, but I want to visit Ohio to do a couple of wholesale deals. Am I allowed to do that? So first thing, can I wholesale in another state? And what is a good script for cold calling?
Yes, you can wholesale around the world if you wanted to. You can wholesale anywhere, but the most important thing about wholesaling in other states is that you must depend on someone for the values and the correct information. So there must be someone in that state, in that county, that can provide you accurate values, accurate scope of works, accurate everything, because you are really dependent on that person's numbers because you don't know that backyard. So you can wholesale anywhere, but it's definitely heavily depend, in my opinion, on your team that is in that area to be able to provide accurate numbers and valuations.
Yeah, as far as an opening statement, you're going to get hung up on, number one, but you want to try to obviously reduce that as much as possible. I don't care what you say, you're going to get hung up on, so get that out of your mind. Okay. But an opening statement, which I was looking at, I think Max Maxwell stuff once, and I think like an opening statement that I saw was like, I know this call is out of the blue, you go into your spiel, you know what I'm saying? So to try to break the ice on that. And one of the things I've found to work with people that I have calling for me is I try to get the statement out of what you want in the initial sentence. And by saying that, say, hi, I'm calling to speak with the owner about buying their property at 123 Main Street. I'm calling to speak to the owner, or you may call their name or whatever, but about buying their property at 123 Main Street. So, right off the top, you're letting them know what you want. So you still if you get hung up, that made it easy for you. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? It made it easy for you. They're not interested off the top. So if they want to continue on, then, you go into your spiel or the rest of it as far as collecting information, letting them know what you do, because they're going to want to know how this process works. And then you call them now. So they're going to want to know what you're prepared to offer. So Depending on if you're just sitting there just looking at individual properties and calling them one by one on your phone, then yeah, you can probably already have a number in your head. But if you're using like a dialer, you're not going to have an opportunity to do that. So you're going to have to let them know you'll call them back or whatever after you do some due diligence, which most people are cool with that or whatever. They're really interested in hearing an offer. So now you call them back with your offer. Now you can still ask them during that conversation, depending on how it goes, because you're trying to build rapport on that with that particular call. You can still ask them, paying all cash and closing quickly, what's the least amount would you accept for it? And some of them will go ahead and get you a price, and some of them will come back, well, you called me, what will you pay for it? So that's when you have to, like I say, do your research on it, depending on how you're making your calls, if you don't have time to do that. So
all right, really good question here, and I don't know who exactly asked it because I've already copied and pasted, but is the term wholesaler a negative term for the seller and the buyer? Does the word wholesaler have like a negative connotation to it?
Well, sellers normally not even gonna know what it means, so I don't even know why it comes up. Number one, I don't even know why it comes up. But if it's a negative connotation to a buyer that you're dealing with, it's probably a buyer you don't want to deal with, because this business is based on relationships on that buyer side. I want buyers that want to buy over and over again from me, and they view me as an asset. Those are the ones that's gonna keep gonna make you money. Now you occasionally get a fool, that I don't care what you do or whatever, but relationships, you want guys texting, calling you, say, Tyrone, you got anything? Those are the ones you want.
Right.
So they love that you're a wholesaler because you are making them money. People understand you are making these people money. If somebody is not interested in you making money to help them making money, it is probably someone you don't want to have a relationship with on the buyer side for sure. I can get sellers being a little, because they don't know what's going on, but normally they don't care because they're getting what you all agreed upon normally. So, but I'm not going to deal with people that on the buyer side with that crap. I'm right. It's not hard to give away money. It's too many of them out there that are begging you for deals.
Right. I agree.
Okay. Back to the title question when it was asked, should they have the title once they get in a contract? Just coming back to that, he says, so you're saying make sure you have the seller and the buyer before you send the contracts to the title company. The other day, my title company person told me all she needed was the seller contract to start the title search. No one's saying that you can't start the title search without just the seller contract, but it's a waste of your time if the deal doesn't go through and now you're paying something out of your pocket that you could have had the buyer on the inside of it pay for you. And if you do it enough times, that's not going to be cheap. That's going to start adding up. And now you're negative and negative and negative, and you're eating yourself in the hole when you haven't even fully got a deal to the table. So is that correct, Renekia?
Absolutely, 100%. I wouldn't have said anything different. And that's the point of it, is that without your end buyer, you really don't know if you have a deal. So to start that title search prior to that, you could be wasting money. So it is easier to wait until you have all your ducks in a row and then send it over there. But it's totally up to you. If you want to start that title because you feel very confident and you get in an end buyer and you know you're good, then start it. But if you are hesitant on not knowing if you'll be able to close it and find an end buyer, then I will wait until you have all your ducks in a row and then send it over. Because now you're, like she said, the end buyer can come in and pay some of that or pay the title for you at that point if you have it all together.
Yeah, I've actually, I do it, you know what I'm saying? But for someone starting out $300, $400, $500 to possibly with no return on it could be, it can make some changes. Some might not get paid or whatever. So, but I'll do it. I don't normally do it, but I've done it. The other thing is that you don't actually have to have a contract to run title. If you just call them and say, I want to run title and pay for it. You don't have to, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? They'll run title for you, got that bread, that fee to do it. They don't care if you got a contract or not. That's irrelevant to them.
That's true.
Okay. The next statement is, I have 5 pre-foreclosure properties that I am working on. If the property owner wants to stay in the house, should I start a lease option contract or find a motivated buyer to buy the property? Sounds like this person is getting the best of both worlds. How are you gonna stay in the house and not pay for the house? Like,
wow. And that's actually illegal too.
Well, you'll get that sometime. I know
you will. You get that all the time.
Well, people you're like, well,
people don't want to lose their house.
Yeah. Will you buy the house and I pay you all? Oh, wait a minute now. Wells Fargo, I'm just using them as a lender. They got lawyers from here to Africa that can, you know what I'm saying? And you didn't pay them. You think I'm go buy it and think you gonna pay me?
Right.
No. I don't tell them that, but no.
It always sounds good, but yeah. The logic behind that is.
Yeah, you're not gonna. So you ain't gonna pay Wells Fargo. Now I understand sometimes life situations may have. Now you got your finances back in place. So you could probably do it. I get it. Hey, trust me, I get it. Right. But again, if it go bad again, you ain't pay them. I know you ain't gonna pay
me. Exactly. And another thing, it is illegal for them to stay in that house after they get foreclosed on. So make sure that you don't get yourself caught up in any legal battles when you purchase it. Because if your lender finds out, whatever they lender finds out, they could actually call your loan due. So just be careful with that.
Okay. Kyrie Cribs wants to know, when wholesaling, what is the best way to calculate the rehab of a house? Is it to bring a contractor with you to review it? And there was the second part of it. Or calculating estimates on a walkthrough. Is ultimately, how do you go about doing that?
That's a really good question. I think when you first starting off, you do need some type of expert opinion. And it helps you formulate your opinion moving forward, because bathrooms are bathrooms. They're either big, they're either luxury, or they're normal. It would usually be always, the same. The countertops may be a little bit more, but that bathroom most likely going to cost $5,000, because if it's in this house or if it's in that house, or if it's a big master suite, it could cost $7,500. But eventually you'll be able to understand that every time the kitchen is, you'll be able to pinpoint those numbers over time. But I believe when you first start, it won't hurt you to have some type of general contractor on your team to help you get an estimate, and just try to pick their brains at the same time to help you be able to walk into the house one day and you can just walk in and say, you know what, this is going to be about a $50,000 job, just because you have seen so many kitchens and so many bedrooms and so many bathrooms and things of that nature. Now, there could be something online. I don't know if Ty you have something online where you can plug this stuff in or something. I think I heard of something online.
Well, yeah, no. I don't know. Deregulate AK prop stream, I actually think it's a little complicated, personally.
Right.
I'm gonna try to always be real on everything. Right. So I saw this video of this guy. He broke it down, and so I've been using it also. He said, this is my understanding of it, but take square footage, and if it's a property that's a rental, in, we'll just say a C or D area, you're just trying to get it rentable, you do $15 a square foot if it's livable. Maybe even $5 a square foot. It just depends. If it's a D area, you're just trying to get it livable, you may do $5 a square foot, right? But If it's where you're trying to do a fix and flip, you want to do $25 a square foot if it's livable. And if it's not livable, $40 a square foot up to $50, depending on the type of neighborhood, because you can do, like I said, you can go higher end, stuff as far as cabinets and countertops, floor, and all that stuff can get, can run it up. So that's a simple way of bringing it, because it's not going to be an exact number, because what Renikia will do as far as on a rehab versus what I'm going to do, I can guarantee you our numbers are not going to be the same, right?
Never.
But you know what I'm saying? So it may be, hers may be 10,000, 15,000 more more than mine, because she high end and I'm low end. So mine probably 40 less than her.
Exactly. And that is so true. Like, I rehab a lot of properties, and I can honestly say 1,000%, no matter how many contractors that I bring out to this house to give me a scope of work, none of them will come back with the same number. 1,000% of the time, they would never come back with the same number. So all you can do is try to find the estimate, especially if you wholesale. Don't put a lot of emphasis on the the repairs. However, the repairs is very necessary for you to really do your numbers to make sure you're not shorting yourself with your assignment fee and those things. So as accurate your repairs are will determine how big your assignment fee is per se. However, it's your numbers against mine. If I say that, hey, my contractor gave me a $15,000 bid and your contractor gave you a $50,000 bid, I'm sorry. That's, there, you cannot hold me against that, because these are my numbers. Like Todd said, I could be higher end or lower end, and your contract could be higher end. You never know. So, just try to get an estimate. And another way to figure it out as well, if you cannot get a contractor to come out there when you first start off, take some very detailed pictures. When I say detail, I mean 20, 30 pictures, put it in a Dropbox, and also do a full-fledged video of the house and send that Dropbox or whatever to your general contractor, and just ask them, hey, when you get some time later on tonight or when you want to dine, because you just look at these pictures and let me know what you think in this video, and give me some type of estimate on what you think it will cost.
Okay. Huge shout out to Crystal. I see she's joined us on the Facebook. She is admin of the Wholesaling Houses with Wholesaling Houses and Real Estate with Flipman Little No Cash Facebook group. If you have not, please do so. Go join. In addition to that, I see Charles, who is, oh my gosh, you make me sick. Charles, who is from Baton Rouge, who is also on. He's a faithful viewer. Busy Diva, good evening. Thank you for joining us. She says she's on her way to her monthly women's REIA meeting, but listening to us until you get there. Guys, networking is always a plus in this business. So partner yourself with a local realtor, not necessarily realtor, just an investor possibly that can tell you where and when those local meetings are. And I would highly suggest you go join one or two. If you missed it 2 weeks ago, Ty was at one. So guess and he did a fabulous job.
Really, did
I'm just
oh, okay. She getting paid to say that.
I get paid to say that. No representation is made. The service is provided. I'm just kidding. He did an absolutely wonderful job, especially considering I know how uncomfortable he was up there on that stage. Okay, continuing on. Anthony Cisneros wants to know, can properties in distress be saved? If the home is in foreclosure and an auction date are set, are there deals there? Any strategies? And he's located in California. So first of all, properties in distress, can they be saved?
Absolutely. Absolutely. A home can be saved up to the date that is actually foreclosed and bought. So what I mean by that is if the day before or a week before or 3 days before that foreclosure date hits, if that homeowner sends a contract, and hopefully they're already in the foreclosure process and everything, they send that your contract to their lender, that lender must stop the foreclosure because they have a arm's length contract to purchase that property. So a contract stops foreclosures.
All right, there you have it. Let's see here. The next question, and this goes back to maybe once you get to the table, who pays for this, but who should pay when the city requires a point of sale inspection?
Point of sale. The buyer? Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I mean, all that is really negotiable. I mean, I would assume the state of sale. So I'm trying to figure out why would the city require a state of sale inspection?
A point of sale inspection.
A point of sale, the city requires that?
Yeah.
It really depends. I mean, if you're making a lot of money on your wholesale fee and that fee is $100 or $50 or $25, keep it simple. However, the seller or the buyer is really negotiable.
Okay. This is in regards to absentee lists. We have a gentleman who just purchased their first absentee list. Which method of marketing would you recommend to reach them? Cold calling or direct mail? Would you suggest a little bit of both?
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so any form of marketing is good form, but if you have the resources and the ability to mix it up and do a little bit of both, because one might work for one potential seller and one method might work for another. So try to mix it up a little bit, add all of it to your marketing portfolio. Let's see here. Next question is going to be from Emmanuel Finch. Would you buy a property worth $1 million with $80,000 as a down payment? The property is in good condition. As the buyer, you are saving $120,000 on the down payment.
How much is worth?
Well, he said it's worth $1 million. So
he said it's worth $1 million, or they want $1 million.
He said worth. Would you buy a property worth $1 million with $80,000 as a down payment? So I guess the question would be, what is a normal down payment on a property?
No, that's a normal down payment, but if it's you don't buy based on the worth. So what is the asking price?
Okay. So a little bit more information.
What is the purchase price of the home that's worth $1 million? And what is the rehab cost of it? Because if it's worth $1 million and you purchasing $1 million, there's no equity in it. It doesn't make sense.
Okay. So maybe some missing pieces there, Emmanuel, if you could fill that in. JB wants to know if a property is registered with the state as agricultural use, considered residential or commercial for wholesaling. Under which does that fall if it's coded as agricultural?
So what, you just want to wholesale it?
Yes, but would you consider it a residential property or commercial?
Neither is an agricultural property. So it's zoned agricultural, so it's like farmland. So it won't really be commercial or residential. It's agricultural.
Okay,
so if you looking to put a commercial, multi-family hotel or something on there, then you have to rezone it commercial. If you're looking to, do a subdivision, then you have to rezone it residential. So you have to rezone it depending on what you're trying to build on it, if you're not using it for agricultural reasons.
Ha! Ta! Somebody else saw you. They said you did great. Bridget Hereford said, I had an amazing time at the REI meetup here in Birmingham on the 13th. It was my first meetup and also amazing meeting you all. Good job, Ty.
Wow.
Thanks for joining us, Bridget. I'm glad she's here. I actually haven't seen that. Well, thank you for joining. Way to go. Hope you got some good information and I hope you continue to get some today on this live flip. with us. And Teresa answered the question. A point of sale inspection is an inspection the municipality does on a home when it comes on the market. These violations either must be completed by the seller prior to the title transfer, or the buyer can assume those violations. And that may apply more for commercial properties, is what she said.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's negotiable, who pays that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to our next question. This is from Cash Deal. And it depends on what's on the books at the county courthouse and what it's zoned to be. It must be used for agricultural use, but it may be zoned for something else. Okay, that was in follow-up to JB's question. I think Renikia answered that as well. If it's coded for agriculture, it must be used for agriculture. So ultimately, farmland.
And most of those things, it matters. So whatever it's zoned for, you have to get it rezoned. Absolutely.
Okay. This is the classic question. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Or is it the egg or the chicken, or who crossed the road? But Gates wants to know, as a new wholesaler, should you get a house under contract first or build a buyer's list first? I think we got two different matters of opinions here in this here. But Renikia, what do you say?
So I'll tell you mine's first, and then Ty has a opinion. But I find it easier on my journey to find the money first, and then I go out and find the home. So now I'm not stressing in the midst trying to find an end buyer, because if I bring in buyers, kind of like having the answers to the test before the questions. So I know when I get this contract, I need the money. So I go and find the money, and, pretty much becoming a wholesaler or a bird dog for someone with the money. So if someone with the money say they're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 4-sided brick home, then I'm going to find them exactly that. And that means that they're ready to purchase right then and there if I find it for them. So I just found that was a lot easier for me to find the money first, and then look for the home, because to me, houses are everywhere, and although money is everywhere until you really need it, like right now, it's like, dang, where's the money? So money is everywhere, houses everywhere, but I find it easier for me to find the money first and then go find the house. So.
And Ty, what do you think?
Both work.
Both work. It does.
But that conjunction comes in. But
I was what appealed to wholesaling, what was most appealing to me with wholesaling when I first got introduced to real estate investing was number one, that I could just put out a message, possibly using banner signs, and people would call me. Those would be sellers. And if I found a great deal, because plenty of people want to sell, I know people get excited when somebody says I want to sell a house or whatever, but get a grip on yourself. 25 to 30 people you'll talk to that want to sell before you get a deal, normally for most people. Mm-hmm. And so what appealed to me is that if I found a great deal, I didn't have to worry about the money, because it's just not hard to give away money. And that's what you're doing when you find a great real estate deal. I'm just as confident as I could possibly be that I could wholesale what's the name of the mall over there? Lennox Mall in Atlanta.
Yeah.
If it's worth, I don't know what it's worth, but I'm just put a number on it. If it's worth 200 million, if I can get it for 75 million, I could probably make 30 or 40 million on it, in a week. Mm. So because I know I'm getting a huge piece of I'm getting a great deal. And on the flip side of that, if I can find a house with an ARV for 75,000, and I can get it for 5,000 or 10,000, repairs 25,000, I can make money on that. Same thing. So, you just market it. Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, Google search, sell my house fast, buy my house fast for whatever city. Those guys, and I'm one of them, spend a lot of money on Google AdWords. You reach out to them. If it's a great deal, they taking it off your hand in a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. So, like I say, both work. So it's just a lot of it depends on the person and they're I don't know what the word is, but how they are as a person is what I'm saying. What's another word for that, right? Personality.
The character.
Yeah, you're brilliant.
And your hustle ability. You gotta have a hustle. You gotta be ready to market. You gotta become pro master marketer.
Yeah.
You got 3 days to buy you $70,000 for your contract.
Yeah.
So
there it is.
But I like that. I mean, with the right, honestly, and you're absolutely right, the right piece of real estate, you won't have to worry about finding the money. I really agree.
Okay, Portia Franklin, you have a good problem, but yet a problem that we all have, that we would all love to solve. And if there was an answer that someone could give, we would all not have the problem. But we have some tools here. Portia Franklin needs to make a deal in the next 30 days. What do you suggest? I have all the tools I need. She said she got all the tools she needs. So 30 days, Renika.
What you need to do to do a deal in 30 days?
Yeah, we need to check.
It's a marathon.
Find a house and an empire.
Okay.
Find a great deal and a buyer. You could be the day of the 27th. Well, you're gonna have to watch the end of next. Next week is bad to been doing business next week.
Oh, that's
very bad.
Yeah,
but everybody's off though. The folks are home.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about as far as trying to put a deal together. Now you may be able to find a deal, like you say, people are at home or whatever. But trying to put if you're trying to close a deal next week, you better close it Monday or Tuesday, because Wednesday won't probably be real tough.
Right.
Those attorneys and title company people, if they're not leaving Wednesday, they shutting down early Wednesday.
Right.
And to the big.
See you next Monday.
See you next Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Right. Tuesday. I'm gonna need that extra day.
It's like a 4-day weekend here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so but I know we're laughing and kidding, but is it possible?
Oh, very possible.
Oh, absolutely. I think we should do a Flippinar challenge. Who can sell their first or the next wholesale deal in 30 days? You can do it in.
Yeah, but you have to start it on the date, and you can't already have it under contract.
You cannot have it already.
No, that's cheating. You already have that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I bet I can somewhat tell when people are filling out their contracts on digulator.com using the free tool, which I hadn't mentioned yet tonight. But I hope you all that's working out for anyone that's used it. If you'll comment in the chat, but I can see people are using them. I'm glad it's a good tool that you can simplify your contract process or whatever. So,
all right.
I'm good for that challenge.
We
control it.
We really need to probably start it the 2 weeks from now.
No, that's fine. I'm not concerned about the start date. I'm just saying.
Now we're giving you a heads up. Now we're giving them a heads up.
Control it.
Huh?
Well, of course, we're working off of the honest policy, guys.
We got to see your contract. Your contract has to say
2 days later. I put it on the contract 2 days ago, and
Well, no, but the contract should be dated.
The contract should be dated.
Yeah, it should be dated.
Yes.
And the HUD's gonna be dated.
Yeah, and the HUD's gonna be dated. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm in this too. What we win, other than our check.
Look like that's the reward. It's friendly competition. You already getting rewarded.
It's motivation. It's momentum. It's motivation. It's the mid of the year. We got to end the next 5 months, 6 months. We got 6 months left of this year, so it's that mid-year boom.
Okay.
We'll figure out something though. Oh,
okay. We got 2 weeks to think about it. We'll put it together. Yeah. Maybe you all have some suggestions out there. You can come up with better than what we're thinking about.
What should y'all win?
All right. So Sharif. Hey, Flip Man. My question is, how do you find a cash buyer? I have a few properties under contract, but I'm having a hard time finding a cash buyer. So,
in my opinion, finding a cash buyer is just as is similar or the same as finding a seller. You got to market for them. You have to market for them. You have to, you know, like I tell people all the time, everyone really wants to buy and sell real estate. So you have to just become it. Everywhere you go, you're talking to people about it, and you networking with people, and you posting about it on your social media, and you're marketing yourself. You're putting your bandit signs out there. You're doing your skip tracing or your cold calling, and you know it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same way of finding sellers. Now, when I first started, I used to do this little bait ad technique. How I find a lot of sellers too. So what I used to do is I get a random. Well, I was a real estate agent at that point, and at that point, anyone can sell like the HUD deals. But I used to get a random picture of a property, and I used to post it on Craigslist at a unbelievable price, where it's almost like I can't believe I'm getting that house for $55,000, and people will call you, and I call them bait ads, and it's only just to get your phone ringing. I mean, if someone called you on that deal, they probably a cash buyer, and I began to get my cash buyers up doing that when I first started, you know. So
he actually has deals on the contract, though, right? He actually has deals on the contract, right?
It is not
clear.
Okay.
All right. So clear.
Well, actually, the follow-up says, I find it easy to find motivated sellers, but my issue is finding cash buyers.
Are you really finding motivated sellers, or are you just finding sellers? Let's look at some of your numbers. You know what I'm saying? People see. I was explaining to somebody the other day. I said that we throw that word motivated seller around lightly. My definition of a motivated seller, I don't know you motivated to sell. You can say that you are or whatever. Until I hear a price, you're not put in that motivated seller category. Otherwise, you're just a seller. Until I hear that price and I check my end of it, you're just a seller.
Mm-hmm.
And agents love to throw that word around, motivated seller. Mm-hmm. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Motivated. That you talking about that listing price that you got right there? Oh, they're not motivated.
They're not motivated at all.
They're not motivated at all. They're not even close. Delusional seller is a better word.
Oh my.
Let me back. They're not delusional. They want what they want. They want what they want.
Well, what they want is unrealistic. So
it may be realistic. It may not. It be unrealistic for me.
Okay. You're right. You're right. No, I can't tell you what you think your stuff is worth. You put your price on it, and all I can say is
it's worth what somebody pay for it.
Yeah, that's like one of the. I think they use like the vending machines. I forget what class. Maybe it was a marketing class or something like that. And it was talking about the machines at like at theme parks, and how a Coke in the machine there could be $3. And you're going to have one person that's going to come and say, oh my gosh, that is just too freaking expensive. Do you know I can get that for $0.25, $1 at the gas station? Why would I pay $3? And then you have another person that comes up and say, man, I'm thirsty. I don't know what. Put $3 in that machine. I paid $5 for it. So every person.
They already got that figured out.
Yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
How thirsty are you?
Yeah, most won't, but enough will.
Most won't, but enough will. Enough people are gonna pay $3 for that bag on Coke.
In that situation, most will, some won't. Most will, some won't.
Right.
Real estate is good business, but when you're in that business where most will and some won't, you make bread in your sleep.
Most won't. That's crazy. But I can honestly say there is no one place to find cash buyers. You find them over time of you doing your marketing and you networking with people who's contacting you from your ads and things of that nature. You know, I find people over time, and it took me 10 years to really find those real buyers. But when I mean real buyers, those buyers that Ty was talking about who need you on their team to really fulfill their business and fulfill their goals, because they need these property. These are people who need property, and it's not like a one-off, but people who actually do this for a living. But it's not one place to find them. You just got to continue to market. As you market, just how you put homes for sale, put, you know, the opposite of that, you know, instead of homes for sale, selling homes fast, cash, quicker, you know, homes for cheap, or whatever the case may be. You want to just switch up your marketing to find cash buyers.
Yeah, I did an IG post. I was thinking about it earlier today, and I decided to put a post on it. Before I say that, you know, buyers get in. My IG is Flipman IG. Follow me there. Plug. Buyers get in and out of the business, so your buyers list need to be always evolving. You know what I'm saying? Because pretty much all the buyers, when I started out years ago, I'm not dealing with maybe but one of them. You know what I'm saying? Because they just get in and out of the business for whatever reason. But what you can do is, like, when you're out driving for dollars, you can also drive for cash buyers. And what I mean by that is that while you're out driving for dollars, pay attention to either houses that are in renovation, right? And you can, you know, if they're there working, get out, have your business card if you have those or whatever. And hopefully the investor's there. So a lot of times they're not, but you may just, your timing may be right. And hey, boom, buyer or whatever. Or if the workers are there, let them know who you are, right? And, you know, give them your contact, give them that contact, or ask for that guy's contact information. They may not be comfortable giving you that, but leave your contact information, because they're probably wanting to buy more, especially if you speak to the guy that's doing the renovation or whatever. So yeah, we do work for him all over, you know, all over, blah, or whatever, or this part of town or whatever. Boom, there you go. Also, what you can look for is houses that you see that are listed that obviously have been already renovated, right? And that's an investor behind that, so there may be an agent. So that agent is probably dealing with investors and is going to be a little bit more friendly to wholesalers, because they've probably been involved in those transactions. Not always, but if nothing else, they want to help their client find more deals. You know, I'm not even going to approach them in a wholesale conversation. The way I explain to people, they like, what do you do or whatever? And, you know, they might see my car or something that's wrapped, you know, or they may see one of the shirts I wear or something. And I say, and I don't try to explain wholesaling to people. I said, well, I don't know. I say I flip houses, and then I'll just leave it at that. And then they may say, well, he said, I want to get in that blog. So I said, well, I sort of don't really flip houses. I buy cheap and sell cheap to other investors. You know, people can somewhat relate to that or whatever. Right. But again, when you're out, you can drive, as you're driving for dollars, you can also drive for cash buyers. Look for the houses that are being renovated, and then the ones that are already renovated, you can reach out to agents and just let them know, hey, you can, you know, supply some possible more deals to their clients, which means more money in the agent's pocket on both ends of it. A lot of times those buyers like for the agents to handle it on the purchase and the sale, so they can double dip.
I don't know if y'all caught that gem he just said, but he just said a lot of people cannot get an understanding of how to present themselves as a wholesaler. And Todd just said something really key. He was like, no, I buy cheap, sell cheap to other investors. That's a powerful statement, and leave it right there. I like it.
It enough right there. Michelle TT, sorry we're boring you, but yeah, enjoy your movie. What
are you going to see, darling?
I don't know.
What's coming out tonight?
I don't know.
I have the AMC 1999 package.
That is a waste of money.
No, it ain't.
Yes, it is.
Now when you live a boring life like I do.
That's like that $3 Coke we just talked about.
That's a mild
some won't.
luxury. If I,
No, that's That's ridiculous. And then they put like restrictions on it that you can't share it. And
I
then
don't
it
need
has
to
to be
share
like
it.
you have to make sure you watch it within 2 hours. And so what you do, go to the movie spot. So yeah, for you, it's fine.
You don't have to go but the 2 movies to cover the month.
That's fun. For you, it works. But
Okay.
because you go by yourself.
I go by myself. I go to my movie by myself.
I know you
most
will.
of the time.
I know you will.
Yeah.
Because when you go with somebody, you don't like watching
Go
it,
get
you
my
go back and watch
go get my $6-7 popcorn.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
We must be like twins. I would really pull up a movie by myself. It's so much.
Oh yeah.
I get
my
it.
6, 7. Oh yeah, that's it, man. My $6-7 popcorn.
Sometimes you don't want the extras.
That's it. I'm in there chilling, getting my mind right. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
How fast you talk?
I got a little problem though. The reason I brought it to
Yeah.
I have to take me a nap before I go.
Tell that
They got the theaters now where you got the reclining chairs and all that stuff. Woo, boy, a dude got up. He had to literally get up out of his seat. He was like 3 down from me. Hey man, you snoring too loud. I just
You
got
ain't in there sleep, are you?
Go to league. I can't.
It's not enough.
So what happens is I'll miss a part of that movie.
I know. You go back
and
watch
I go
it.
back and watch it because I went to sleep.
That is the life of time.
When somebody got to tap you on your shoulders, that's the life.
Yeah, I was loud. That's ridiculous. That's just bad. I just felt
That's a lot. You gotta get tapped on your shoulders because you snoring too loud.
Hey, so you gotta move
I would need you to next week and chill because this is.
Nikia got that too. Watching movies there either. Okay.
Guys, get up and
on that too.
I just got up on and left, man. I couldn't hold it.
He got up and left in the middle of the movie.
You have a list. You have a list that we get asked for frequently. So I'm asking you that handy list. You got it ready. You got it ready. So this is Mr. Jarvis Brown's question. And no, Mr. Brown, I did not miss your question. I was trying to make sure everybody was available and had their pens and paper to write about it. Okay. He wants to know, or she, I'm not sure. What are the best skip tracers? Now, not only skip tracers, he wants to know an app. So out of the list that you give, Renika, are any of those apps that you can download?
I'm sure you can download some of these. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So guys, put out your pen and paper if you're interested in knowing what are the best or some of the top best skip tracers. Renika is going to give you a rundown list right now.
So that is TLO. Which is a little expensive if that's on your budget, but just know you pay for what you get. Prospect Now, Spokio, LexisNexis, which is a very expensive service. Those are the ones that usually your bill collectors and people like that utilize. Been Verified and Locate Plus. And I'm sure a couple of those definitely have apps. I'm sure Been Verified have an app.
Okay. And the second portion of that question was, and Ty, I'll direct this one to you, is does Deal You Later work? I guess it's magical and you just let it loose and it's like fairy dust and it does on its own. Go ahead and go into your diatribe about it being a tool though.
What do you mean prop string? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I use it every day. Literally. It does work. It is a tool. It's coming to Home Depot.
Home Depot's analogy.
Pankin,
only as good as a hammer and a nail.
You go buy a bucket of paint and the brushes and the rollers, your paper, your tape, but the wall ain't gonna paint itself. It's just those are just tools, right? Renika is a tool. I am a tool. Adria is a tool. My website is a tool. The channel is a tool, but it is all useless if you don't put it into action. But to answer your question, the tools work. You just have to use them. Be patient, be persistent, like the lady asked about it's possible, but it's almost like you defeated yourself when you put those type of expectations on yourself. This is a marathon. This is not a 100-meter dash or a 40-yard dash. This is a marathon. Look beyond those 30 days, right? Whatever, I understand she may need that for a financial situation, and I have no idea what it is, but don't put those limitations on yourself or those. You have goals, don't get me wrong, but understand I'm in this for the long haul. If this guy here can do it, trust me, you can do it. The only difference than me and maybe some others is that I'm not going to sit around and think about stuff. I'm just going to do it and understand that there's a strong possibility that I will fail. But you know what? I can't succeed either if I don't try.
Wow. Said that.
Pass around the envelopes and the collection plate. Our ushers will start in the back and move
yes.
in the air and throw them on the floor. Whatever hits the ground, mine, what stays up is yours.
And Sister Johnson, meet me back in the back later.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So.
No, that's so true. The lady who said 30 days, it's a marathon. It really is. And one thing about real estate that I love, everyone needs it. So if you don't sell a home in 30 days, it doesn't mean that the business don't work. It's just timing. And you have to put a little bit more into beating your craft, but it works. And, regardless of when you close your first deal, if it's something that you really want to do, go for it and continue to put your all into it until you see the results that you're looking for.
All right. They see, told you it's a word. It's been a word. Rose Gold Jones, I think maybe we might have answered this, but where to find a seller's phone number? I have the property record card, but barely accurate addresses, but no number. So that would go back to those skip tracing services. And Jill, you later as well. Mentioned that. That whole list there. If you missed it for whatever reason, I know someone else asked to run the list back again. Just once we finish, go back maybe 10 minutes. So maybe 7:08, an hour into the video. And you can get that list there as well. And by next week, what I will do is the list that Renikia has, we will put it so like everything else, we can put it on the screen when she's getting ready to list those. So you'll have it there to write down or screenshot or whatever you need to do. We'll get that going for you guys. PK, that's okay if you were late. Glad you joined us. No apologies needed. Ty, do you still give away the 2 free courses at the end of the Flippinar? Well, where you been? You ain't been on in a minute.
Yeah, you ain't been on a long time.
PK. No. No.
I've been inspired to do that.
Plus videos available on YouTube that you can dive in, switch, swim on through those videos. Yes, Rose Gold. Let's see here. Shakur writes. This question was, let me see here. I think I might have tagged it. How can I find out about her program? So if I can see, if I can start buying properties in Essex County, New Jersey. Renikia, that was for you. Let's also, I'm just going to read them all so you can answer them all at one time, because you can probably answer them all at one time. Renikia, can you explain the process and time period for the line of credit process and give out your information again? The next one was, I have currently a 650. Would I qualify for the 100K to begin my rehabs, or what would I need? I know she said 680. I know that much. Okay. But the next part was another question that was for you. I can't find it, but answer.
No, that was a great question. So, to answer your first question on what's the process. So pretty much the process is we'll do a credit evaluation of your profile. You must have a 680 across boards, but it's a little bit deeper than just having a 680. We do really father. This program is a very extensive credit driven program. So what's in your credit matters, your utilization matters, your inquiries matters, your the number of primary accounts versus authorized user accounts matter, your credit limits matters, your if you have any negative accounts like collections and late payments and bankruptcy matters. So we look at all of that despite just the score to determine your qualification. But it's very, very simple. Once you go through the program and you submit the paperwork, you'll be able to have access to those lines within 5 to 7 days of going through the funding program. So if anyone wants to leverage their credit and just get a little bit more cushion under their belt to go out here and really invest into their business. And what's great about these lines, it comes at 0% interest for the first 12 to 18 months. So it's almost like someone giving you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 or $100,000 to say, hey, bring me $100,000 back in 12 months. So what would you do with the opportunity if someone gave you $100,000 for 12 months interest free? So those are the things that you can do endless things with it. But most importantly, I just hope that you invest into a project or invest into your wholesale business so it pays for itself, because you don't want to get yourself into father debt. But if you want to take advantage of that, just go to findmynextdeal.com, where you can get access to that website where you could input your information and get an email with instructions on how to get started. And also, you got a quick question, you can always email me at funding@fkfinancials.com or follow me via Instagram or Facebook.
All right, there you have it, guys. Again, that's fundmynextdeal.com, and she is available across all social media platforms, first and last name Renikia Williams. And Epic Journey has a question that I would love to get your input on. She says there is a program where sellers can now have their homes renovated and pay for it out of the closing. The marketing is targeted towards the seller, avoiding flippers and iBuyers. Does this hurt us as in wholesalers?
There's a lot of ways to,
Yeah.
take them all.
Wow.
Definitely sell real estate, but I don't know if it
Right.
hurts. Just
Mhm.
another layer.
Yeah.
You still to find your deals.
It's another service. It doesn't, it's like, it's almost saying McDonald's next to Burger King hurt one another. So, those are just, and they don't, people are gonna still pick and choose who they want to work with. People still gonna pick and choose if your service works for them. So there's enough for everybody.
All right, guys. I hope we've answered enough questions for you to get your Thursday night feel of flipping in wholesales.
Yeah, well, basically, we're about to end this.
Did you give me the finger?
No, I'm just
you, Miss Johnson, in the back of the church, and gave me the whole 1 minute church finger.
If you want your questions those of you all that didn't get your questions answered, just post them on this video or any of my YouTube videos here on YouTube, but also on any of my posts on Instagram. Don't DM me because I'm going to send you back to one of those places. If you post your questions on any of my posts on Instagram, I'll answer them there also. So that's an opportunity for you to find out I exist on Instagram at Flipman IG. But also, you may not know it, but you can ask your questions on any of my videos on YouTube. So if you text me and I send you back there, I'm not being mean, it helps others when I answer your questions. Plus, I can do it at my own time because I'll sit down every day or so and answer those questions or whatever. So, but I try to answer every one of them, literally. So, there's an opportunity to get free consultation from a cat like me. Popcorn eating, sleeping in the movies,
right.
$19.99 AMC. what they call a Prime member guy.
Not Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
No. AMC.
Oh, okay.
I got Amazon Prime. I got Amazon Prime too, but I'm just saying.
Oh, you're exclusive. Okay. In the built seat.
You know what I'm saying? You know, they want me to pull up, you know, hey.
How are those portrait size bandit signs working?
Oh, those the bomb. You know what I'm saying? One of my students started doing that here. I started copycatting him, but I took another. You know, I'm gonna do it a little. I'm gonna do it a little. You know what I'm saying? A little better than what I think he's doing it, but turn them from his way to portrait. You know what I'm saying? You can put more there, and you can put a website. You can put a little tagline. Your We Buy Houses or whatever long phone number. It just you know, just look better. Someone interested in seeing those signs, you know, I'll text them. I'm not gonna put them on the internet here, but just DM me on IG, Flipman IG, and I'll send you what mine look like.
All right. Shaq Smith want to say what's up. He's from the west side of Detroit. Him and Charles Jenkins from Baton Rouge. I think I already said that though.
Oh, I just followed. Am I following you on Instagram?
No, I ain't important.
I just followed
everything else.
I just followed Anika, so I'm going to follow you right there.
I ain't following back.
I don't post nothing at all.
Okay.
Ever. I won't follow us though. I might post me eating my taco casa or something. Okay, guys, we will be here next Thursday.
Whoa. Let me check my. I'm going to my calendar.
Yeah, the 4th of July.
Oh yeah, no, ma'am.
The following week on Thursday, we will be here. If you have not subscribed, please do so. You will receive an alert letting you know that we will be starting soon, either maybe a day or a few hours prior to the Flippinar starting. That will be at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We love having you with us tonight. We also always love having Renegotiate here. Ty, we appreciate you giving us the platform to have these questions asked and answered in regards to wholesaling. Everyone, if you have not joined that Facebook group, that is also a great place to ask questions as well. Peer to peer, great motivation. What you going to say?
We don't mention the podcast either. Flipman podcast. You can catch it on iTunes, Spotify, iTunes. iHeartRadio. So just go to flipmanpodcast.com, access those, or just go to those different platforms. Just search Flipman. You should be able to find the podcast.
Okay, I see someone posted a race flag. Yes, begin your race. We will start our challenge. We'll figure out the rules, and now we
that made me the marathon continues. And maybe the marathon continues, but
I got a good idea. Whoever the top 5 people send us all 20% of the check.
Oh. We got some for you. We got
love
offer. Shut in.
Right. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining.
Or show 106.
Show 106. Enjoy your 4th.
Bye.